What's something you used to do routinely until you found out it was horribly dangerous and should have already killed you? Wearing rings while rock climbing. I had been a member at my climbing gym for 3 months before anyone told me about deadlifting injuries. I know someone who isn't a rock climber but had one of those experiences. She was tripping on acid apparently and they needed to jump this gate fence to get somewhere. Her ring got caught on one of the poles and ripped her finger off. I can't imagine how weird that would have been while tripping on acid. Not me, but one of our patients. Back in the day, contacts weren't soft. One of our patients, whenever his contacts bothered him in the slightest, would take out his contacts, swish them around in his mouth, spit them out into his unwashed hand, and pop them back in his eyes. I saw another hard contact user do that and I picked up the habit. Thank goodness the doctor explicitly told me that was a no-no without me even asking. I guess that was a thing going around 25 years ago. Put a fork in the toaster to check on the crispness of the bread. I did that to get it out when bagel got stuck in it until one time I felt a small shock and threw the fork halfway across the kitchen. Never again. Huffing computer duster. I would go on monthly binges of it. I ended up doing it in a Walmart, as I'd sneak quick hits from the one on the shelves, and next thing I know people are waking me up saying I was having a seizure. Haven't done it since. Walking on sewer unshiny. Drive very fast. What was I in such a hurry for when I was 17? Nah bro, I'm so cool everyone I go past will notice me. I used to breathe through this one gas mask from World War II. I've researched them and now I know older masks usually contain asbestos, chromium, or some combo. Still collect them, though. Who cares about mesothelioma, which I probably spelled wrong anyways. Well, who knows, perhaps someday you or your loved ones may be entitled to financial compensation. We would be riding around drinking in our 63 Chevy that 3 of us had purchased for $75. Cost $25 each. The 14-year-old that didn't drink would be the driver while the 2 of us that were 16 would polish off some cold-caused beer. We got started going to the railroad crossing outside of town and parking the car on the tracks so that all 4 tires were over the rails. We then let out about half the air in each tire and laid something on the gas pedal so it would barely push it down. Then we all 3 climbed onto the car hood and laid back on the windshield and rode the 3 miles into town. We would climb back into the car windows and drive to the gas station where we would fill up the tires. The car would stay on the rails unless you didn't let enough air out of the tires and then it would jump the track on a turn. We rescued it once with a chain and a friend's Jeep. The second time it jumped we just left it there. When I was younger, I used to do front flips all the time, until I woke up unable to move for a couple hours. Still have back pains. Scuba diving without a buddy, and it should have killed me twice. Got nose surgery and had to irrigate my nasal passage daily. I use tap water. Then I learned about brain-eating amoebas and crap, so now I use distilled crap. Read about brain-eating amoebas. Instantly the top of my head feels weird. GG. Pulling out the chair from people when they wanted to sit. I learned that it could potentially cause paralysis. I did this so much, and one day my teacher got pee at me and told me to stand up. He stood next to me and then said sit down. He pulled out my chair. I expected it but fell on my butt all the same. Everyone laughed. I deserved it. Back when I was in high school, my friends and I would hang a rope swing on a tree and take turns jumping off of it into a river. We would spend all summer just swimming around and jumping in. It was a year after we graduated high school and all went off to college that we learned that some kids just up the river were doing the exact same thing and a log shifted and pinned one of them underwater, causing him to drown. Not to mention our stretch of the river was right next to a big bridge, so a stray piece of rebar could have literally skewered us after a rope swing. We used to jump off of a 70-foot high railroad bridge into the river, while drunk of course. Then there was a big storm and an underwater tree was washed under the bridge. A few weeks later some girl jumped and ended up impaled by a branch that was pointed up. Within days there was a 10-foot fence installed on both sides of the bridge. I used to tan in a tanning bed every day, sometimes twice a day. I'd always go for the maximum amount of time allowed to. I stopped whenever I noticed a weird dark freckle on my bottom lip and started doing a little research. Now I'm pale as can possibly be, but I'm okay with it. They're illegal in Australia. We already have the largest skin cancer deaths per capita from the sun alone. Till I was a safe kid. Taken prescribed medications for arthritis and allergies. Eventually every medication I had been given was taken off the market because it causes heart failure or some other deadly disease. A moment of silence for Seldane D. Pesky ventricular arrhythmias. Playing the part out game as a kid. I had a seizure playing this game. I used to ride a bicycle without a helmet while wearing headphones and listening to a Walkman. Replace Walkman with mobile and you'd fit right in the Netherlands. Autoerotic asphyxiation. Just kidding. I still do it. A friend of mine knew a guy who did that. He dead. I think the worst is for the family. Imagine walking in and finding your son brother dad with a purple head and lips, and a grey body and dong. Playing with the lead used to make stained glass windows. I assumed it was like lead pencils and no longer lead. Turns out nope, I was wrong and I will probably end up mad as a hatter. Lead pencils were never lead, incidentally. Graphite the whole time. Guy who discovered it thought it was a form of lead, because it was dark and made marks on things. Gaming and drinking soda and not exercising enough to balance out anything I do in my life and not eating healthy, and I still do it. I should be dead, but frick man, just 5 more minutes. Literally my life, and a team speak of about 10 other people, mostly. As a kid we would shoot an arrow straight up in the air and watch where it comes down. We had one land real close, and that was the end of that. Not me, but my husband would always shave while driving to work. Chin up, looking left and right, shave the neck, hundreds of feet not looking at the road, on a freeway. Used to play with mercury as a kid, bare skin. Squirt apple juice on the plug socket and lamp. The bulb in the lamp burst, and the lampshade caught fire after a few times trying it. I used to cook food on light bulbs when I was a little kid. By cook I mean place small pieces of various food on the light bulb until it got crispy or burned, and then I would eat it. It just dawned on me when reading your post that I could have burned my house down doing this. I claim the record for the longest time not dead yet from a horribly dangerous thing that I did routinely. The Ashore Valley had been bombed and defoliated for about 6 years by the time I got there in 1968. There was a branch of the Ho Chi Minh Trail right down the center of the valley. The Air Force was the only American actor in the valley once the Ashore Special Forces camp fell in 1966. And for the Air Force to interdict this North Vietnamese supply highway without any ground help required that they be able to see through all that triple canopy jungle. Enter Agent Orange. When we landed in the Ashore in 1969, the valley was a maze of bomb craters interdispersed with patches of what used to be jungle. The remnant of the jungle consisted of thick bush up to about 3 meters high wrapped around large, utterly leafless trees. The naked trees were the obvious danger. The bombs had loosened their roots, and they had no leaves, so no food to rebuild their support. They were some kind of very heavy wood, so the second the wind blew them slightly off center, they crashed. The only warning you get is a little creaky noise in the wind. Then wham, that heavy trunk would drop at the speed of a guillotine blade and crush whatever was under it. So we were making sure that we didn't toss out on the leeward side of one of those enormous trees, which was hard, because there were a lot of naked tree trunks still standing. The other thing we routinely did was take all our water from local mud wallows and out of bomb craters. It turns out, that was the horribly dangerous thing. No one clued us in. No one said anything. Those leech wallows and bomb crater ponds had an oily film on top. Agent Orange. We had no idea that we were hip and ahead of our time. Orange was the new black. It's morning in America. We need to add an annex to that black wall in Washington DC listing those who started dying around the Reagan era. Killed over a longer time, but just as certainly, by the Vietnam War. I was in the middle of that. I thought I was just dodging tree trunks and getting some water, anywhere I could. I mean, I routinely put iodine in that nasty water to take care of the local cuties. Iodine does nothing to Agent Orange. Just drinking water sets you up for bad news in a decade or two. But not me. Not yet. Doing fine. Don't know why. Doing forward and backward somersaults on bouncy castles when I was younger. When you have a lot more energy at that age, you don't really think about neck injuries. Hope I'm not too late. When I was around 10, my friend's younger brother used to chase us around the outside of his house whilst wielding a huge kitchen knife. Personally, I never wanted to play, but my friend had a taste for danger, now a bit of a drug addict. Thinking back on it, it was dangerous beyond comprehension. His little brother could toss that knife for any length and there was little cover around his house. Thankfully nobody died. Ignored things going on with my car, like the steering wheel wiggling when I was going straight. Drove for months without a wheel bearing. Refused to have it towed to the repair shop. Just drove there. Turns out my wheel could have fallen off at any time. At the age of 6 I burnt my hand grabbing toast from the toaster. From ages 6-10 I would jab the toast with a fork to lift it out and onto my plate. I'm glad I learned the risks of it. Use brake cleaner to prep areas that I was welding. Makes phosgene gas. Going outside and Beijing without a mask. Putting those styrofoam cup ramen noodles in the microwave. Ramen noodles. Smoke 'em. For a while there it seemed I had developed a habit of encountering the most dangerous dark wizard of all time at least once a year. Yeah, and the dude patiently waited for the end of the year to make sure that kids are done with the final exams. Sort of related, but take muscle relaxants. I had a really bad back about 6 years ago and was prescribed some muscle relaxants, which I was taking regularly. I was also going through some mental issues. One night I decided, frick this, took 5 or 6 muscle relaxants. I don't remember falling asleep, but I do remember waking up in the middle of the night with chest pain, not being able to lift my arm, and having the sudden thought of is this it, as my arm fell back down and I drifted away. Luckily it wasn't. Your body fought hard for you that day, bro. Sippin' tea in your hood. Sometimes parents can be really stupid when it comes to that stuff. Mixing opiates and stimulants. Sometimes not so bad, like smoking crack and snorting Delordis. Sometimes bad, like shooting coke, H and oxy all in one night, while the same night drinking almost a case of beer and eating 10 Tizzlem. You know what? Drugs in general should have killed me. Almost 3 years clean. You have been visited by the romantic doggo. Comment love is magic so you never fall in the friend zone. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.